How prepared are you for a societal collapse event? It feels like there's never been more potential for an event like this to happen than it does right now. However, for today's discussion, and to avoid the censorship police, we're going to discuss a fictional scenario, the Great Solar Storm of 2029. This is a Carrington-level event, amplified by the sun's unusual active cycle. A solar storm of this magnitude could disrupt GPS, communications, and fry any unprotected electrical circuit. Can you imagine if we had 48 hours notice, the panic that would ensue? People cramming into shops, buying all the toilet paper, hoarding all the materials, the unprepared in panic. Stock markets would crash, and people would draw out ATMs of the last bits of cash that they can, providing we still have cash at this time. After the impact is when the trouble really begins. Power grids fail, and the world as we know it goes dark. No smartphones, no computers, no electricity, no cars, because of the electric circuits in the cars. No banking, no access to our finances, no refrigeration, no food distribution networks. Transportation stopped, airplanes grounded, and the ones that are in the sky fall out of the sky due to failures in electronic components. The emergency services will be stretched to their limit. When water treatment goes down and food distribution networks stop functioning, panic will really set in. The heavily populated cities like London, Tokyo, and New York will be the first cities to experience rioting and looting, as huge numbers of people run out of resources and lack the ability to procure them. With no banks and no access to money, no shops and no communication, this is scary enough, but there's still so much more potential to come. Opportunistic conflicts brought about by basically an EMP strike on nations. Famine. People starving, no access to food, no access to clean water. How long will you be able to last? And diseases, no waste collection, no clean water, no sanitation. Dysentery will become commonplace, and then our old friend cholera will appear, as people who are ill-equipped and ill-prepared drink contaminated water. But today we're going to think about the first 2 weeks. No electricity, no communication, stretched police, no services. Now, nobody is going to starve in 2 weeks. We all pretty much carry enough body fat to last us the 2 weeks. So nobody has to worry about starving. However, we do need food for morale. The first thing we're going to have to do is open our refrigerators and freezers and see what we have, and arrange them in order of what's going to spoil first, and we need to eat everything within the first week. Anything that's going to spoil within the next 12 to 24 hours needs to get eaten first. Then we need to cook and preserve things as best we can to last the first week. The second week, we're going to need to move on to our stored provisions: pasta, rice, tinned food. Most people should be able to last 2 weeks with the food they just have in their house on an every month basis. But imagine the grid goes down and there is no water. Most of us don't have any water stored in their houses. I have about 3 liters of water just in small drinking bottles that I store. So the first thing you're going to have to do in the event of an emergency is fill up our bathtubs, find every single container we have and fill them up. If you can get about 400 to 500 liters of water, you are good for the first 2 weeks. The average bath contains around 300 liters. So you should be fine if you can get that bath filled up all the way to the top, fill your pots and pans, and get yourself to a point where you have water. Because that is imperative. They say the average person needs around 5 liters of water a day. So a family of 4 will need close to 300 liters of water to last the 2 weeks. And you'll need more if you have pets. And lastly, fuel. It's all very well having food, but if you don't have the means to warm food up and cook food, it is no good to you. You can't eat dry pasta. You can't eat unboiled rice. So you need to make sure you have enough propane to last the 2 weeks to boil food at least once a day. Now, a 12 kilogram propane cylinder should last long enough. So all you need is a single burner And basically, we're just going to live on one pot wonders. We're going to try and cook our food once a day, enough food for the entire day or the next 2 days, to reduce the amount of fuel we need. But it's all very well having food, but if you can't warm it up and can't cook it, it's no good to anybody. Once we've established that we have enough food to last us the 2 weeks and we've procured enough water to last us the first 2 weeks, we now need to have a look at what medical supplies we have. Get our first aid boxes out, get our paracetamols out, make sure we have enough of the basic necessities to keep our family okay. Headache pills, ointments, prescription medications for chronic health issues, and if you have young children, enough nappies to last the 2 weeks. Now remember, important things like sanitation and waste removal will stop in an event like this. So you need to have a plan how you're going to manage your waste to keep your environment as clean and hygienic as possible. Security is probably not the most important thing you have to worry about within the first week, especially if you live in the suburbs like myself and you're quite a little bit away from the town centre. But you still have to think about opportunistic people, the people in your immediate neighbourhood that are hungry, that are not prepared. And you have to be aware that small groups, small mobs might form in order to go and scavenge together, because the group mentality takes over and you need a group in this situation. So the first things we need to do is we need to make sure all our gates are locked, all our windows are locked, and all our doors are locked. Back out your windows. Install privacy screens if you haven't already installed them. Make sure you have blackout curtains around the windows. You do not want people to see in and see what resources you have. Don't go outside unless you've checked the area first, and always be vigilant. Now, in the UK, we have very strict self-defense laws, and the procurement of any weapon for the use of self-defense is practically illegal. So we have to make do with things we have around the house that we would use for other activities, like golf clubs, baseball bats, cricket bats, a shovel, a pick handle, whatever we use for things that we use in our daily life that we can use to defend ourselves if the event came. So just to recap, if you're preparing for 2 weeks where you're going to have no energy, no access to services, first thing you need to make sure is you have enough water to last the 2 weeks. The next thing you have to do is go through all your food and identify what food is going to spoil within the next 6 days. And eat everything from what's going to spoil first to what's going to spoil last. Cook everything you have to get through the first 6 days. The next week, you're going to focus on your pantry cupboard. You will need to boil rice, beans, pasta sauces. Have a good stockpile. These are things we use every day. It benefits us to have double what we normally have in the fridge for the event of an emergency. Make sure we have an alternate source to generate heat to cook our food. A propane stove, a log burner, anything that we can use to cook your food and warm it up, because cold food is fine to survive, but for morale, hot food is always better. Make sure you have a stockpile of medications. Make sure you have antibiotics, make sure you have your chronic medication. Make sure you have enough plasters, band-aids, first aid kits, because accidents are going to happen and there's going to be nobody there to help you. Make sure you think about your defense. Prepare your house. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Hope that nobody comes to your house. Hope that no gang of vigilantes try to break into your house. Stockpile batteries, flashlights, head torches, lamps, board games, anything you can do to keep yourself safe and focused while times are really strenuous and you're on your own.